Hi, everyone. Welcome to the third edition of the Overton Venture Capital Spotlight Series. I'm Carrie Miller here with Michael Nogan, and we are the co-founders and general partners of Overton Venture Capital. We're really excited today on our panel on investing in women's health. We have two excellent guests with us today. Colette is the CEO and co-founder of JoyLux, a incontinence and femtech company, and an Overton portfolio company. Kirsten is the founder and CEO of Brazen, a period health company. We'll let them tell you a little bit more about themselves and their companies in a moment. For those of you who don't know us, Overton is an early stage venture capital fund. We invest in companies that are serving the change in consumer behavior. Women's health and wellness is one of our focus areas, and we're really looking forward to this conversation. Thank you, everyone who submitted questions in advance. We tried to incorporate them into the conversation. We'll leave about 10 minutes at the end to incorporate some of the questions that we haven't gotten to. Also, feel free to use the live chat to ask any additional questions that come up during the conversation. You can also follow along on Twitter. We'll be live tweeting the event from @OvertonVC. So without further ado, turning over to my co-founder, Michael.
Thanks, Carrie. So I'm Michael Nogan, the other half of Overton Venture Capital, and I'm very excited to moderate today's panel because what other moderator than having a male moderate a panel around innovation in women's health. Welcome, Colette. Welcome, Kirsten. Terrific to see you both virtually, and personally very excited for you both to share your views. As both your companies are really tackling different solutions to different areas of female health. So we should have a great discussion today. So I think we should get started. Colette, I'll start with you. Can you briefly tell us, who you are and what is JoyLux?
Great. Well, thank you for inviting us. We're really excited to talk about women's health, something we're very passionate about. So I'm the founder and CEO of JoyLux, and JoyLux is a women's health company that uses high-tech, that's developed high-tech solutions, products geared towards solving common pelvic floor health issues that menopausal women face, such as incontinence, vaginal dryness, and pain with intercourse. And we have several products under our portfolio. We have the popular VFit women's health device, which is here. And we have the V-Sculpt device, which is sold outside the United States. And then we have a line of intimate care products under the Her Intimate Care brand.
Great. Thank you. Kirsten?
Yeah, so again, thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure to talk about femtech and the future of women's health any chance I can get. I'm Kirsten Karchmer. I'm the founder and CEO of Brazen. Essentially, Brazen is a precision health company for women. We're building precision health solutions delivered by an app that can increase and, that can reduce the significant symptoms associated with menstruations like PMS and cramping, polycystic ovarian syndrome, endometriosis, fertility, and menopause.
Gotcha. So again, you can see the juxtaposition between a younger female customer and an older female customer. So, as an investor in JoyLux, we've been extremely impressed with Colette as a founder, but particularly around the vision, which is the in-home use, solutions. Can you tell folks kind of what was that aha moment when you decided to start JoyLux?
Yeah, well, it was very personal for me because when my background's in medical aesthetics in the beauty world, where I've been using technologies to help women look their best, kind of turn back the aging clock. So I was very familiar with energy-based technologies. When I decided to become a mom, I was a little older in my motherhood journey. And so all my friends had children, and they sat me down and they said to me, Colette, be prepared to pee your pants every time you sneeze. And I was mortified. I said, what are you talking about? I thought, the biggest challenge women face when going through childbirth is just taking off that extra weight we put on. I had no idea that our pelvic floor would be compromised as much as it is because of childbirth. And so I of course, did research after I learned this and discovered that it's such a prevalent issue. More than 50% of women will face bladder function issues at some point in their life. As I started learning more about women's health and intimate functions, I discovered that there was a lot of problems that women face, but there was very little innovation because this is a taboo topic. People don't talk about it. I didn't know about it. People just don't engage in this conversation. So that's when I had my aha moment. I said to myself, okay, I've been using technologies to basically turn back the aging clock and restore the tissue on our face and our body to help us stay young. Why can't I do the same to the vaginal tissue to help alleviate these symptoms that women are facing, such as the loss of urine or vaginal dryness or, pain with intercourse? And here we are 5 years later, we have the world's first home use solution that uses energy to restore the tissue of the vaginal tissue so women can address these issues, deal with these issues.
Gotcha. No, we've been very impressed, particularly around, that it's scientifically validated, particularly as one who fortunately doesn't have issues with, I don't think I need to strengthen my pelvic wall, but if I did, I would rather I'd rather go to a device that's scientifically validated.
And that's, by the way, one of the incredible things is obviously this is a product for a woman, but the men who are watching, this is a product that affects you, especially those that have wives and girlfriends, etc. So it does affect kind of everyone, regardless of the gender.
Yeah.
I would say happy wife, happy life. So
I think I've heard that one before, actually. Kirsten, you're not, while Brazen is relatively young company, you are certainly not new to women's health. Very, at Overton, we look for founder market fit. We're talking, but you're not currently a portfolio company, but love your story. Can you share with folks what was, the aha moment for Brazen?
Oh, sure. So I spent 20 years as a reproductive acupuncturist in Central Texas. I helped over 10,000 infertile women to have babies. And how we did that, I say we because I had a team of clinicians who worked with me, but we pioneered a way to look at the menstrual cycle as a barometer of women's overall health. We allowed us to use user-collected data to predict the likelihood of natural conception, to curate customized interventions, and to use prescriptions with behavior and Chinese herbs to change those outcomes. And we did that for 20 years. And my first startup was called Conceivable, which was a technology version of what we were doing in my clinic. It's funny because I set out to build a platform to sort of democratize access to women's health and fertility solutions. I thought, well, if I can build an algorithm that's 50% as effective as I am, that's pretty great. Like that'll be really good. And the algorithm outperformed me. It was shocking, right? So without human interaction and without acupuncture, the algorithm outperformed what we did after 20 years of clinical experience. But I ended up writing an article for Goop magazine called What Your Period Can Tell You About Your Health. That ended up being one of the most performant articles on the magazine at the time of publication. And hundreds of women wrote to me after that saying, look, I'm 26 years old. I'm not in a relationship. I'm not touching shit called Conceivable. That was the company's name. I heard you can fix periods. Can you help me? I'm really, really suffering. And every woman who came to my clinic over those 20 years had terrible periods. But because that's highly correlated with infertility, I didn't really think that was a problem. And so I started looking into the epidemiology of what I call menstrual disease. And it turned out that, last year, 82% of women in the US had reported life-interrupting menstrual pain and PMS. And that was the aha moment. Like this, I'm a world expert in this. I didn't even know how seriously this was affecting nearly every woman of menstrual age on the planet. And I thought, how in the world can we be in a women's movement? How can we rise up? How can we take our place in society? How can we elevate our daughters? when the majority of us are sick every month and literally nobody is talking about it, and more importantly, nobody is doing anything about it. So I just feel Brazen, as a platform to address that.
Well, speaking of no one talking about it, let's talk about like the big elephant in the room. That's the word taboo.
Yeah.
I don't think it was that long ago where, some of these, terms like sexual wellness, female health. I mean, these were, things that that women would maybe not even talk to their girlfriends about, more or less open up to community. Are certain issues still taboo, or are we kind of moving away? Colette, I'll let you start.
Well, I've been at this now for 5 years, and I've seen a dramatic shift in the openness of people talking about it. And I remember when I first pitched my first kind of retail partner back in 2017, I didn't get a phone call back. No one would answer the calls or the emails because the thought of promoting a vaginal health product was just unconceivable. About a year after the first email went out, I finally got someone at TSC in Canada to respond. And the reason I did—
And by the way, just for the audience, since most people are within the US, that's the Canadians version or it's the Canadian Home Shopping Network, right?
Yeah, it's the QVC of Canada.
Sorry, the QVC.
And here it's national television in Canada. And the reason we got a call back was because they had hired a female CEO or a female president who was of that certain age, who understand that women are going through these issues, but no one's talking about it. But they're hungry for it. Women want to know about what can help them. And so she took a bet. She put us on air. And now, 2 years later, we sell out every time we go on air. And that was kind of the first indication that the world was starting to open up. But what we've seen since is there's just been this influx of entrepreneurs, especially around period products or period trackers, or having to do with the younger generation, which inherently is just a lot more open to talking about their issues. But because of that influx of entrepreneurs, we're seeing just this, people are starting to talk about it, whether it's the business publications saying, this company got funding or this company sold, seeing these successes. It's just helping awaken everybody. We're also seeing online social media, it's such a great platform to communicate with like-minded individuals. So what we're seeing is a lot of groups that are geared towards specific issues in women's health, whether it's menopause, whether it's motherhood, whether it's periods. There's groups where women are coming together that have these similar issues, and they're engaging with these people. And it's done in a very safe environment where there's no judgment, where there's no embarrassment. So we're just seeing a lot of engagement online and through social media. And then the last thing that I've noticed that has really catapulted this whole conversation around women's health is celebrities. And Gwyneth Paltrow, whether you love her or hate her, she is absolutely a catalyst behind getting the word about women's health and vaginas out there, because she was, brazen enough or bold enough to have the dialogue on a world stage, and she's gotten flack for it. But even the negative press has been positive because it's allowing us to talk about these issues. So absolutely, today we are way better off. We are engaging in the conversation than we were just simply 3 years ago.
Yeah. Kirsten, do you agree? Are we better off today? Well, hopefully we're better off today.
Yeah, I think we're better off today. I think that my first career, I was a cultural linguist, and so I was always really interested in the origins of everything, especially as it relates to language. And if we think about the word taboo, taboos actually come as a way to protect people, right? They develop in culture so that we can develop protective mechanisms. And around the work that we're doing at Brazen, because it's often so related to menstrual blood, which is really hard for people to talk about. I almost said swallow. But the reality is that, historically menstrual blood has been very feared. So like in earlier cultures, menstrual blood was thought to kill crops, poison food, cure leprosy. If it got in your eyes, it would blind you. It could melt a penis. I mean, it was scary, scary material. And so I think that this is sort of the origin of this fear of the power of women because they menstruate. We're like, well, we better control that, because basically women control two things in society. They control sex, and they can typically control the food. And so I think that was a forthcoming problem. And then you look at the Bible, that's the first written language about women and menstruation. We talked about Leviticus, and the book Leviticus said women are the inferior species because they menstruate.
Interesting.
Actually, Aristotle said that, not Leviticus.
No, so historically there have been taboos. It sounds like things are becoming more mainstream. Let's talk about some of the roadblocks, because I'm sure that you're still seeing them. I know, Colette, we were talking earlier, and you've had issues just communicating on Facebook what JoyLux does. Can you share?
Yeah, that's the one thing I would say that's holding us back from truly being this, totally open society, is there are still controls in place that are preventing women's health companies to talking about the issue. And specifically Facebook, they won't allow us to say the word vagina because that is deemed to be pornographic. We can't talk about sexual intimacy, again, because that's deemed to be pornographic. Yet it's a body part, and it's no different than men who have penises, which, by the way, is absolutely okay to talk about on Facebook, because whether it's a penis or erectile dysfunction, because that is what they deem as part of family planning. You have to have an erect penis to have a family, and therefore we as a platform are going to support families, the whole birth process. But when it comes to women, God forbid we have a dry vagina, which does impact sex. We can't talk about it. And so we as entrepreneurs who have these incredible solutions that are trying to advance women's health, we have to be very creative in how we talk about it. So we have to create this whole new set of nomenclature, words that are safe. So we talk about intimate wellness or intimate function or feminine wellness. And a lot of times women are going, okay, what the heck are you talking about? Is this for your vagina? And we want to be like, yes, that's what it's for. But we have these roadblocks. What's unfortunate is companies like Facebook do not even want to engage in the conversation. They are not interested in helping us break down these barriers to better communicate what is just a simple bodily function for women. And that's discouraging. I'd love to be able to just sit down with them at the table and talk about words that we could use or ways in which we could convey the value propositions of these products without offending anybody. In my opinion, it's totally not offensive, but it's still a very archaic system.
Yeah. So Facebook, social commerce, right? How important is the community in social commerce to, both your companies, specifically Brazen, for example? Where is your customer and how are you engaging her?
Well, I think that I also want to say something too about this tagline on what Colette said. Also Twitter won't allow you to use the word vagina. So Jen Gunter wrote a book, The Vagina Bible, and they wouldn't let her promote the book because it contained the term vagina. And so I think that this is a really critical, if we actually really want to change the health of women, we have to liberate our language around what's possible. Because when we message a product that's so important, like what they're doing at JoyLux, as intimate and with this vagary, it communicates to women that there's shame that's associated with their body parts and their needs and their health needs. And it's precisely that shame that keeps women from seeking actually help, because they're like, well, they can't even talk about it, in a respectful and tasteful way on social media, whereas they can talk about erectile dysfunction and show pictures of penises. So where do we connect with our community? This has been very interesting for our particular company. We've been on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and, had moderate engagement around those communities. And then 5 weeks ago, I started making videos on TikTok as an experiment. And it was incredibly fascinating because as you can see, I like to tell stories, and I just hopped on and started talking, not doing anything fancy, nothing funny, even though I can be very funny. And so now it's been 5 weeks. I grew an audience of 90,000 followers. So I'm getting an average of 1,000 questions a day.
Wow.
And so for whatever reason, for us, that's a place in which women feel safe to talk. Every day at 4 o'clock, I'm doing a live because I could not answer all of the questions every single day. I'm having over 1,000 women a day. This has been 5 weeks. And what that tells me is women are, and they're every day saying like, thank you for talking about this. Thank you for bringing this out into the front. Why didn't I know about this 20 years ago? And that's so powerful to tell us that, women want this information. They want to take care of their bodies. They want information and resources about what they need to do in order to feel great in every part.
So it sounds like what I'm hearing, because of the social component or the importance of building that community, is it fair to say that both JoyLux and Brazen are more, word of mouth products versus, could do well as a kind of standalone on a retail shelf?
I would say yes. I mean, our product, it does require education. And so simply just putting it on the shelf or putting it on a web page that doesn't engage the audience is tougher. We chose to be a little different in how we approached the market. And we first went to physicians, women's health physicians that are in interacting with our core customer, the menopausal women, the woman 45 and up on a daily basis. So we chose to go to them first because they trust their doctors, they confide in their doctors. And by building the brand awareness and the trust with the physician first, that gave us then the permission to start really scaling online because women wanted first to hear from their doctors. So we're a little different than some of the younger generation where TikTok is an absolute perfect platform for someone in their, teens and 20s. It's not quite where the 50-year-old woman is hanging out, not yet. Probably another 5 years, then it will be, old news. But so for us, it is really about girlfriend to girlfriend and having that referral that this worked for me. Why don't you give it a try?
And you might be surprised, Colette, about TikTok, because I've been really surprised because I was doing testing using hashtags moms of TikTok, moms over 40. And actually, it's a very engaged audience of moms who are on TikTok trying to monitor what their teens are doing. I mean, for us, it allows us to, connect with their moms who are a big source of sales for us, but also to start building trusted relationship with 10-year-old girls, right? So if we're going to build a relationship with women across their reproductive life cycle, building this relationship with both the mother and the daughter concurrently is really valuable for us.
I have customers that still don't even have a smartphone. So I'm trying to get them to even have a USB cord to plug in the device.
Like what?
So I was going to, kind of, talk a little bit about Amazon. I know Brazen, Kirsten, your, Amazon, it seems like it's an important sales channel, whereas, JoyLux doesn't use Amazon. I'm wondering,
we just launched this week.
Oh, yeah, that's good to hear. Because
yes,
just before this call, I just double checked and I didn't see anything yet.
We literally just went up. So
okay, so I guess the question is, how important is Amazon, and how are you embracing, that particular channel? Kirsten?
Yeah, so for us, Amazon was, we're only barely even a year old. And so we put our products on Amazon when we launched Brazen, we just started with 2 products that were not customized, one for PMS and one for cramping. So that's a perfect product for Amazon. It was a way for us to start selling and gaining reviews and things like that to gain some social proof. But long-term, it won't be a channel for us because as soon as the app is ready to launch, everything that we deliver to our customer will be customized. So there won't be any standalone products that you won't be able to have customized through the app. But it is a great way to get social proof because people trust Amazon reviews much more than they do even verified reviews on your website.
So I was hesitant to go on Amazon in the early days because to me, Amazon is best when you know what you're looking for. So you type in a product, okay, I want, XYZ, and here's your, list of brands that are selling that. For us, we are pioneering a brand new product. There has never been a device that uses technology to restore vaginal tissue, that uses energy like our red light device does. So how do you even go about searching that on Amazon? So we felt that we needed to spend time educating consumers that there is this new category of women's health devices. Now what we've discovered is that there is, 70% of searches now start on Amazon. People are now going to Amazon to search. And so we said, okay, we're going to take the plunge and go for it. So we just launched this week. We've had our first review today. So after, so we'll see.
Gotcha. Well, so that's interesting. Let's now shift gears and talk about why, femtech is such an exciting space. At least it is for Overton. And as Carrie mentioned in the intro, we're focused on tech-enabled, startups that are solving real consumer needs versus wants. And, we're particularly bullish about digital health and creating a better experience, particularly when there's a gap in products, but also opportunities for more intelligent platforms. Carrie, do you want to give a little bit more color into why we're so excited?
Sure. I mean, to add to what you said, Overton invest in the change of consumer behavior, and we're looking for entrepreneurs and products and services that are solving a need. And look, I mean, you can hear based on the conversation today, this is right in our sweet spot. We also are bullish on women founders and diversity and health and wellness. Femtech, I think last year as a category was just shy of $1 billion in funding. And it's projected to be about $50 billion by 2025. So huge opportunity and huge white space for category changing companies. For us, looking at menopausal women, look at the purchasing power that exists in this group. And then look at the data, on the brazen side, look at the data that we're collecting for personalization and customization. Women's bodies, even though we go through similar things in the life cycle, we're all so very different. So now being able to have the data behind that just makes us very excited about the space in general.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Yeah, to me, when I started Joylux, I put on my VC hat. I started my career early working for Mavron here in Seattle. So I looked at it from the lens of an investor. Here is a completely white space opportunity. 50% of the population are women, and there are not products that are catering to their unique health needs. Hello, here is a great opportunity to build some incredible companies in women's health. So just the pure size of the audience, and then to specifically with menopausal women, which gets me excited about that segment. Here's a group of consumers that have discretionary income. They have money. They're willing to invest in themselves. We are living longer as a society, and they want to live healthier lives because they're living into their 80s and 90s. So they're investing in themselves. They have the money, but yet there are so few products or companies speaking to them. So from a purely investment perspective, I saw this as a great opportunity to build a fantastic company in a white space that is nothing but growing.
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons, as Carrie said, $1 billion in funding last year, and in 5 years, on track to hit 50 billion. Clearly people believe, but that's still a drop in the bucket in terms of the overall funding. And we're obviously looking for niche opportunities. Let's talk about fundraising. So we gave you kind of our perspective, but it sounds like you both have had differing experiences fundraising. Kirsten, I'll start with you. I mean, I know you've raised, pre-seed, but want to hear a little bit about your experience trying to, sell Brazen to investors.
Well, I think there's two pieces of that. Originally raising money for Conceivable 5 years ago in Texas, talking about menstrual blood and all the details about that, essentially to cowboys, because there are almost no female VCs at that time. And there's a funny story where I met with this guy at 7 o'clock in the morning. He walks in and literally had a giant 10-gallon cowboy hat on, big silver boat, and he sits down, and I was like, this is not going to go well. The waitress comes over, and I say, we'd like 2 tequilas. And he's like, what, Kirsten, it's a little early for a drink. I said, listen, we're going to talk about some things that's going to make you squirm, but you're going to need it, and it's going to make everything go better. The waitress comes, we do double shots of tequila. The guy writes a check that day. So good strategy.
Very interesting strategy.
It really, it greased the wheels a little bit. It was a lot more comfortable. I think he thought I was sassy after that, which is probably true. But I have found both. People always say like, oh, well, there's so many great female investors. You should just be only focusing on female investors. I've had amazing response from female investors and equally amazing response from male investors. I think that everyone knows that everyone knows someone in their very intimate circle who is really suffering in some way or the other from their period, and they're left with almost no resources. And the idea of something that could identify not only just fixing the problem of PMS and cramping, but actually the whole system that caused those to occur is super interesting to people. So for us, it hasn't really been a problem. Our biggest struggle is not in fundraising. Our biggest struggle is in breaking down the association and the relationship that women have to their periods around suffering is normal, that it's normal to experience extreme suffering during your period. And so I would say the investor community has been very open to us, and our customers are taking a longer time to warm up to the idea that there's something possible beyond passing out and throwing up from your cycle.
That's interesting.
For me, I started a little earlier because I've been in this journey now going on 6 years. And so when I started fundraising, women's health was not on the radar at all. So I was really one of the pioneers in terms of bringing it forth as an investment opportunity. And I really struggled in the early days. I would walk into a room and I'm looking at a room full of, I hate to say it, but white middle-aged men. And the minute I would say vagina, they would turn red and, start looking away and shifting. They were really quite embarrassed about it. So then I would say, okay, well, go home and talk to your wife about this. It's like, good chance she suffers from this. And they're like, what? Have a conversation with my wife about something as personal as that? So after kind of struggling initially, I again went back to, okay, why did I think this was a big opportunity? It's the numbers. And so I totally changed my my focus and almost, sadly, downplayed what the vagina and the solution, really focused on. Here's the market opportunity. Here's, there's 34 million women today that are in menopause in the US. There's 1 billion women globally that are in menopause. Here's how much they're spending on products, $19 billion on products that do not solve the issue. They mask, we're talking wearing diapers. I mean, who wants to wear diapers? So I really started focusing on the potential of the market and as an investor, what this could mean to you in terms of returns. So once I changed my lingo and just really focused on, here's where we can make money together, it totally changed the fundraising for me. Now here I am 5 years later, and there has been a wonderful influx of female investors that then get it and are really super excited about not only building a great a strong financial company, but doing something that's going to make a difference in women's lives. Because ultimately, that's what we are all super passionate about: women's health, making a difference. So to have a partner, a financial partner like Overton, that not only see the financial upside, because that's, you are investors, that's why we're here, but really want to make a difference in women's health. And that's where the best investors come from, the marriage of the two.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, kind of this little side note. I remember, meeting you, Colette, for the first time for coffee when you came to New York, and we're at a very packed coffee shop, and you whip out, a Joy Lux device, and you talk about men turning beet red. I was beyond red, and people, I remember people looking around, from other tables, and it was very embarrassing, but I got the numbers. I was super excited. Carrie and I both, we spent time getting to know you and learning more about the company. But I just had to say that at least I'm not the only one who turns a little red.
Well, you know what? Can I just add something real quickly? It was really nice because last year our company won a very prestigious award. We were named the most innovative and genius company by the Angel Capital Association, which is, again, predominantly male. And so when they got up on stage to announce that we are the winners, it was just the room, there's 500 people and 400 of them are men. It was great because we all kind of burst into laughter that here we are, 2019, and we're talking about vaginas on stage at an investment conference.
So I'm hearing that men now are ready, at least men, VCs are ready to talk about reproductive health.
Yeah.
So if we can shift and talk about the other elephant in the room, we talked about taboos. Let's talk about COVID, which is one of the reasons why we're doing this virtual, series in the first place. Has the, kind of the shelter in place either almost brought down the level of tabooness? How has COVID impacted, your go-to-market strategy? So, Kirsten, you want to start?
Well, it's been strange. I mean, I wouldn't have predicted this, although we know that health and wellness typically does well in an economic downturn. But we actually have been growing pretty steadily, 25 to 30% month over month since the pandemic hit. Now, right when the pandemic hit, about 50% of our customers churned. After 1 month, they all came back nearly. So I think that they thought, well, this is discretionary, like having a good period, and especially because their period had been so much better, and then they had one period without us and came back. So I think we had like a 90% return rate of the people who had churned. But I haven't really noticed a change in the openness around the conversation. Again, mostly I've been spending a lot of time talking very candidly on TikTok. And so those have been remarkably candid conversations, especially in the TikTok lives. I've been having, 8-year-old girls come into the live saying, look, I'm 8 years old and I think I'm about to have my first period. I don't have anybody to talk to. Could you just tell me what to expect? I mean, that's, to me, the most beautiful thing that could possibly come out of this is that, people are at home and they're having to come together in collaborative ways and connecting with people that maybe they wouldn't have otherwise if they were out, in the world every single day.
For us, I hate to admit this, but the pandemic has been really good for our business. And that's one of the silver linings. Prior to COVID and specifically the lockdown, 60% of our revenues came from selling to doctors. But when the doctors had to shut their doors, we had to quickly pivot and focus our sales and marketing efforts online. We always had sold online, but it was really about making a strong push online. And the beautiful thing is our consumers reacted very positively, and our sales are up almost 175% year over year as women are engaging online. And the reason being is twofold. One, research. They're at home and they have the time, they're in front of their computers, and they have the time to research about our products and the issues. Whereas previously, if a woman is sitting at an office, it may be okay to, look online for a pair of shoes, but she's certainly not going to Google vaginal health concerns with her colleagues walking around her. So now that they're at home, they are doing their research. And then secondly, they have more time for self-care. The biggest complaint we get from women who have yet to try our product is, I just don't know how I'm going to find the time. But with stay-at-home orders, they have the time. And certainly our customer, being a menopausal woman, there's less about children in the house that are, going to interrupt them. And our product does require at-home treatment. So 10 minutes every other day for about 6 weeks. So the pandemic has been good for our brand. Our sales, I'm so excited that our sales, we're still growing very strong year over year, despite losing a big channel of our sales. We're up positive because of what we're able to make up online. And as a result, we've made the decision to now officially really focus on direct to consumer because it is absolutely going so strong and so well for us. So the physician, while it was important in helping build that trust and endorsement with such, an intimate product, they become, not as important to us now that we are building that relation directly with the consumers online.
So it's interesting too. From what, if I could regurgitate, whereas original strategy was to sell through doctors, and the doctors are the trusted advisor for their patients. Yeah. Now, based on this COVID environment, that's changed a little bit. Would love to hear thoughts around just how the pandemic's affected just longer term customer behavior. Do you think that people have a short memory and they'll revert back to the way it used to be? Or do you think that people now want, different things?
I, for one, believe that things like at-home care, whether it's telemedicine or a product like ours, is becoming much more appealing to consumers long-term. I certainly have, speaking personally about myself, I'm loving the fact that I can dial in and get advice from a doctor on the phone without having to get in my car and go pay for parking and wait. And likewise, being able to treat my, treat my family and me at home with solutions rather than have to go to the doctor. So I think long term, this has been a great pivot in women's health, and that trend will stay. I think women are the free time that we have. We don't want to be going, to a doctor's. We want to be spending time with our family, and so let's do what we can at home. So I think it's here to stay.
Kirsten, what do you think?
I think so. I think we're seeing this trend everywhere that people are actually, part of the silver lining of the pandemic is that people are actually cooking more, they're caring for themselves more, they're paying attention more, they're spending more time with their families. And I think that people are, the barriers to telehealth are really starting to dissolve. And so the more, for Brazen, since we're basically, why we address menstrual problems, we do that in a very holistic way. Because we're addressing every single aspect of a woman's health, for us, we anticipate that this will be a very positive signal for us to continue to educate and provide resources and tools for women to care for themselves at home and their families and their daughters.
And because of all of this, have you adjusted your product roadmap? So have you thought about maybe pivoting and potentially offering other products that you wouldn't have otherwise offered? How has it affected your kind of future state?
It hasn't affected our future state, although I did have an idea to start another company about precision immunity. It's the same thing, right? You're identifying what are the problems in the system, right? There's no herbs, there's no supplements, there's nothing that you can really take that actually has demonstrated change immunity in any way. But there are what you want to do is identify what are the gaps in the system that makes that person more susceptible to an infection and fix that as a system. So what we have changed, not in terms of our product map, but the conversation, we keep looping in more information about how fixing the system actually significantly improves your immunity.
For us, we absolutely have, we're doubling down on home care. We're introducing new products much sooner than we had originally planned, because we see that this is going to be the long-term trend. So we had a product in the roadmap for a couple years from now, and we're going to be introducing it in Q1. So we're really excited about women's health and the focus on at-home care and the dialogue that we're having. We also increased just the level of content and education around women's health, because we're seeing so many women engaged online and want to know this stuff. So we've made an investment in ramping up just our blogs, our stories, our education to help women just learn more about women's health broadly.
Gotcha. And aren't you soon to launch a new product?
That's what I'm talking about. The Q1. Can
you give a little bit? Can you give us a take?
It's geared towards a younger woman, so it's more for the postpartum or the brand new mom, and it's a product again that's never been done before. So we're going to be pioneering, but it's a product that will help 9 out of 10 women that deliver vaginally, and we think this was going to be a game changer in postpartum care, and we're super excited to launch it in Q1.
Gotcha. And Kirsten, I know that. Looking forward to seeing, this new app that's being launched soon. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So, we have about 500 period trackers on the market right now. They can do 2 things. They can predict ovulation. They can predict when your period is going to come. What they don't have the ability to do is leverage the deep data that those trackers are collecting diagnostically or prescriptively. And so the app that we're building for women it looks like a period tracker, except the difference is after you're finished inputting the data, the algorithm is looking at menstrual characteristics, regular signs and symptoms like anxiety, fatigue, insomnia, their habits, their exercise patterns, their sleep, even their mindset and their environment, and then able to diagnose all of that as one system and then curate a behavioral health solution and customized Chinese herbal formula to fix the whole system. And then each month they'll menstruate, and the algorithm learns from what's working and what's not working.
And then
solution.
And does that app then talk to a doctor, or is there any medical? Okay.
No, there's no human interaction currently, and it's all based on sort of peer-reviewed data and our clinical experience, and then the foundation of Chinese medicine, the diagnostic paradigm. So, in Western medicine, if you have PMS, we give you something to control your PMS. In Chinese medicine, we're like, well, what are all the factors that are coming together to cause PMS?
Gotcha. Listen, it looks like we have about 12 minutes remaining, and I saw that we have a lot of questions. I'll, kick it to you, Carrie, if you want to.
Sure.
Take questions from the audience.
So I'll start kind of from the top. So, we talked about this hypocrisy on social media and Facebook. Has anyone tried to tackle really an expose or an article in order to address this? And has it been done? Is this an opportunity to be stronger in it?
Yeah, so I've been very involved in trying to work with these social platforms. We formed a group of other companies like ours, and we're talking even large companies like P&G. So it's not just us that have the issues being small startups, it's the large corporations. P&G has the issue. They can't get the conversation going. And so we were given someone at Facebook to dialogue with, And then the conversations just halted. They have a lot of other things on their plate, but it's really frustrating because we have tried. We did once we did a campaign about Save the Vagina. And again, it was a group of women entrepreneurs that got together, and we filmed this really very funny video about just say the word vagina. And first it was banned. We couldn't even play this. It wasn't an advertisement. It was just a campaign about saving the vagina. And then eventually they let us put it on Facebook. But yet, it unfortunately didn't make change. So it's frustrating. We have got still ways to go.
I love the comment. Sheryl Sandberg needs to lean into this issue. And Michael, who asked the question, is an expert in this space. So we actually offline, let's connect with Michael and see if there's anything that we can do. Okay, moving along. Thanks for that. So I like this question from Caesar. Are your products reducing the risk of developing diseases like cancer? Obviously there's great benefits on both of your products and services, but can you talk about kind of the trickle down effect to, other disease management?
Well, for Brazen, we know that what I call menstrual disease, which is, severe dysmenorrhea, endometriosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, PMDD, which is a very severe kind of PMS, are all highly correlated with the diseases that kill women, like heart disease, diabetes, estrogen-dependent cancer, stroke, and suicide. And so, while we don't have data to prove this yet, we do have a hypothesis by significantly improving the ecosystem in which these diseases occur, that we will able to decrease the incidence of the diseases that are most detrimental to women's health.
Same with us. There is a lot of data we hear from women on issues that they have that they no longer have after using our product. Unfortunately, you get the FDA involved and they really restrict you from even talking about these benefits that we're seeing. So I can't address specifically things like, okay, we're seeing, less prolapse or less cancer or less UTIs or yeast infections. Which would be wonderful to be able to talk about. I do want to say one thing, though, because it is related to COVID. Our parent company that we incubated from, that I leveraged the technology from, is actually using red light to treat COVID. And that is out there in the public domain. And I'm super excited about what they can do. I'm not suggesting, though, putting a red light device in your vagina is going to get rid of your COVID. So please note that. But I am excited to see that, technology in general is, we're advancing it, and what we're learning about it is helping in other areas that are much needed.
Great. And with that, Colette, is there anything you can share on kind of your process working through the FDA clearance for the medical device? Obviously,
yeah.
Talk about potential roadblock from COVID is you're on track. There's various stages, and FDA has other priorities right now. Can you share with our audience a little bit more just about that process?
Yeah, I would say women's health in the FDA is very challenging. There has been some really large lawsuits, class action lawsuits related to women's health devices, vaginal meshed implants, and some drugs. So as a result, I think the FDA has taken a stance that they're very conservative in terms of what gets approved and what claims. And then for many of you, or if you're familiar with the whole FDA process, you have to, in order to get clearance, you have to show a predicate device that you're just like something else, which inherently limits innovation. If you were just like something else, then you're not really innovating. And so in order to innovate and get a product approved that is new, you have to go through a very lengthy de novo process, show a lot of clinical data, show animal studies, human studies. And so it's challenging. Thankfully, we got involved early on with the FDA. So I've been working with them since 2015, and they gave us the clearance on this product to take it to market as a low-risk general health and wellness device back in 2018. We're looking to expand claims and be able to say a lot more about our product. But in order to do that, there's a lot of testing. Now, COVID comes, and that makes it really challenging to do clinical studies when you require people to go in and visit with a gynecologist. So FDA is not easy. That's one of the unfortunate things that are stunting innovation in women's health, but they're there for a very important reason, because women's health is complex. Carrie, you said it earlier. Even though we all have a vagina, our symptoms are not all the same, and so there's a lot to consider when bringing a product to market. And so the FDA just wants to make sure that when they do, it's safe and it does what it says it will do.
Great, thanks for that. So a question for Overton, where do we find women-led businesses? I mean, today, thank goodness, because it is such, top of mind for so many investors. For us, through our networks, other venture capitalists, angel networks, I'd say kind of where the big void is right now is how to kind of do women get on the radar to get that first check. And so angel networks tend to be a great place to find great women-led companies. Also being plugged into, I'm a former Goldman Sachs employee. There is Launch with GS, which has several initiatives for diversity-led businesses. Tory Burch Foundation, it's so much on the radar of so many great companies. So through our network, through the angel networks, through word of mouth, we're constantly reaching out and being proactive with other women leaders and women founders because they're involved in their own networks. Michael, I don't know if you have anything else you want to say with that. And like I put in the chat, the amazing thing, obviously I'm a woman, I'm highly focused on looking for women-led companies. We're very proud that half of our portfolio companies are women-led. Both Brazen and Joylux actually were opportunities that Michael sourced. And look, Michael, as a co-founder, or actually he was a founder of a maternity retail business, has a wife and a daughter. We as a team are laser focused and are looking for these opportunities. So Grace, thanks for asking that question. So I guess kind of, unless other questions come to the chat box, I'd say for the entrepreneurs or the aspiring entrepreneurs in our audience, Kirsten and Colette, when you had that aha moment and you recognized there was an opportunity, how did you think about kind of getting it off the ground? What were your next steps after you had the idea to launch your company?
Well, go ahead. I would say for me, I was fortunate enough to just the timing of everything. I met a company that had the technology, so I didn't have to invent the technology. I just was the first to put it in a different body part. And so I was able to work with really smart scientists that already had done a lot of the heavy lifting and the clinical work. And it was really about creating the value proposition and the marketing and branding and how do you take it to market. But, it just starts with, a pen and paper sitting at your desk or your computer. And number one, what's the name? What am I going to call the company? How do I think this will grow? The financials. It's just one step at a time. And then surrounding yourself with people that believe in their vision and mission. And you can't do this alone. I have been blessed with like an amazing, amazing team. We're all very committed to women's health, and I'd like to say they're the ones really doing all the heavy lifting and the hard work, and I just, get to praise them along and encourage them.
Great, thanks. Kirsten?
Well, I think, this Brazen is a spinoff of our first company, Conceivable. And so the idea to do that really came from that moment of, so many women are suffering and we have something that can help them, which is also a good business decision for our parent company or the original company. But I think that the starting point for anybody who has an idea for something they want to do is start testing, start talking to people, just start thinking about exactly what it would look like. And know that that's going to change. I think that was really great advice that I had very early on, is like, whatever you think this is Conceivable, whatever you think your company is going to be, it won't. It's going to morph and morph. And mostly the reason that companies struggle is when they try to keep it inside of that box of what they originally, and they don't, aren't fluid and able to say like, this is what I thought it needed to be, but the market told us something else, or actually we invented a new product around that. So remaining agile and like Colette said, if you can surround yourself with like the smartest people that you can get your hands on, I think in the startup community, people are incredibly generous. So many people have helped me for hours and hours and hours and hours with no expectation of anything. And I think that once that happens to us, we then turn and do the same thing for other founders. So I think that it's a really beautiful community, and you just have to be tenacious about finding smart people to get around you, because you'll, like Colette said, you'll need it. All of us need it. I mean, if you want to do something, change it.
Well, lastly, I think you have to just be a little bit crazy. Because anybody that starts a company, you're going to be hurt. You know, it's going to be so challenging. So you just have to be a little crazy to get through all of it.
Good point. They say be crazy, but keep it in the bottle for the investors.
It's like a mullet, you know, business in the front, party in the back.
Yep.
So look, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's a perfect place to end, you know, surrounding yourself with the right team. You know, Overton, we're hyper focused on the jockey. We're investing. These are early stage companies. As investors, you're betting on that jockey. You're betting on the fact that they're surrounding themselves with a great team. So great advice for those aspiring entrepreneurs. So look, Colette, Kirsten, an incredible discussion. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Michael did a great job leading it. If you want to find out more information about Joylux, it's joylux.com, and Brazen, forever brazen. We did record the session and we will send it around. We look forward to your feedback. Also, we have created a Twitter account. It's a new Twitter account. So for everyone listening, please follow us at Overton VC on Twitter. Thank you so much, and we will all be in touch soon. Have a good one.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.